Hey guys, I kind of woke up with a lot on my mind today. And I was like relaxing in bed, which is one of the ways I receive downloads. I'm actually going to talk about that in a minute, but um, this interesting thought came to my mind. Not, all that profound, but if you think about it, I was just thinking about how beautiful the weather is and how I cannot wait to get out and just like dive into it. I like mowed the lawn yesterday, kind of get like all your senses going, smelling the grass being cut, and everybody else is too, because it's the beginning of the year and everyone's grass is getting thick. You know what I mean? Like everybody's just outside, excited, the whole energy shifts, and I feel that shift coming with the weather. Isn't that interesting? We're kind of aligned with the weather. It doesn't surprise me at all, but I was thinking about how we've kind of like in the Matrix normalized being indoors every day, and it's just like everybody's always inside and that's normal, like to just, this is where you're supposed to go every day, into this building or something like that. And there's literally people out there who are like, I'm not outdoorsy, I don't go camping, like I don't get into nature, I don't do that. A lot of people, and we've normalized that, and that's almost like, to me it's like a fear, but like, what are you afraid of? Because to me, nature is God. Are you afraid of God? Are you afraid of your organic way of being? Are you afraid you're not sovereign enough, or you don't have enough skills to be, or you haven't been in that, immersed in the organic environment enough to be comfortable in it? And that is just like such a reflection of humans in general. Like we get so caught up in the Matrix that our organic way of being feels unnatural to us. It feels scary. It feels unknown to us because we're so used to operating from a place of being programmed. And I just found it so interesting. Like, it's weird, those people who like say like, I'm not outdoorsy, I don't like to be in nature, because it's like saying you're afraid of God, because that is our organic way of being, is being in nature and being connected to all of those things and having our senses so heightened. It's like when you go on a hunt, right? Not that I have a lot of hunting experience, but I have a lot of hunters in my family. Once you're out in the woods for an hour or two, all of a sudden your hearing gets like more heightened. All of your senses get more heightened, and you become more connected. The more still you are, the more likely you are to be able to see an animal in the distance moving. You'll be able to recognize that movement out of your peripheral vision or wherever, because you're just still, right? You're just being, you're connected, you're heightening your senses, and then you're activating more senses within you too, especially if you're doing it from a space of this connected space, in the space of like knowing an intention, like you actually know that you're connected to nature, and that you can activate yourself in a way where you have more senses. You have your psychic senses come online, you activate your DNA in a sense, right? And that's because you're becoming more connected with your organic nature, instead of coming from a space of programming where the ego says, we're like all domesticated, like I said in that one video, like how domesticated dogs, once wolves started, or certain wild dogs started running with humans, they got fed every day, they became dependent on the human, they were less sovereign, right? They're domesticated, and that's how humans are in the Matrix. We're dependent on the Matrix. The Matrix gives us our money, our food, our shelter, our everything, and they tell us that's the only way there is to be. But really, our soul is yearning to be connected to that organic nature, which is completely unknown, which is why people are so like out of their comfort zone right now. It's not just about nature, it's about being in that space of out of your comfort zone, a place that you're not familiar with. You're not coming from a place of programming, right? You're familiar with the programming. The ego is familiar with the program. That's that safe space. And so, it's just a bunch of thoughts rolling through my mind this morning that I really felt compelled to share. And I wrote a lot of stuff down, and I'm gonna read some of it out to you. And it all kind of flows together. It has to do with this like comfort zone. Like, are we really just afraid of God and creation and the all that is, and our unlimited potential of what we could do and be? And in being just is honestly just being out in nature and feeling connected and having your senses heightened and just feeling that connection. That's really like all there is to do. There is no some big duty or mission. Once you're connected, all of that information for mission, if you're here to serve others in certain ways, some people are just here to serve others by holding a really high vibration and living in a town where that vibration is literally affecting everyone and everything around them. So they're not actually interacting with people. Like, I guess they are consciously if they know about this, you know, the physics and everything of it. But unconsciously, you could be like doing so much work, anchoring so much light just by being in your creative space every day. Maybe you're that introvert that doesn't really leave your house, but you're into art and you express yourself through music or poetry or writing or whatever it is. And it raises your vibration to this insane degree. You're out in your garden, your hands are in the soil, you're connected, right? And when you raise your vibration, you affect everything around you. Especially, that's why light workers are scattered all around, so we can cover ground, right? And we have to not think it looks a certain way or try to fit ourselves in a box, and know that, you know, like our mission could be as simple as just being in our creative space. We don't have to be so hands-on, but some of us are called to be hands-on. So when we get in this space and connect to nature, we're able to receive those creative ideas to inspire us as to what the next step is. But we receive it in the moment. We're still in the moment. We're not trying to reach for the future. We receive that information, we can write it down and be like, okay, let me know when it's time, spirit, right? And so it's really as simple as that. And I just want to read this because it really, it just breaks it down a little bit more. So I put, okay, when I lay in bed in the morning and relax and there's no thoughts or worries about life coming in, it's just like this, just be in the silence. And you can even allow yourself to sleep or not allow yourself to sleep. Don't put rules on it. That's why I don't traditionally meditate. I'll just lay in my bed. If I fall asleep, cool. If I don't fall asleep, cool. If you do fall asleep, you'll probably get really vivid dreams. If you set that intention, you didn't have the worries of the future, or the depression of the past, or worrying about a relationship or whatever it is, and you really get to that space where you're detached and you're not like, fuck the Matrix, I'm just this character. This is all, if you really look at it as this is all a dream, then you stop being so attached to what the character you're playing in the Matrix and the things you got to do on a day-to-day basis, and you can get into that space to receive, because there's nothing clouding your thoughts. Like, the thoughts that come in, you can trust them because they're not coming from a space of ego, right? So anyways, you get in this space. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep, you might have a really lucid dream that gives you a lot of information too. So don't be like, oh, I meditate and then I fall asleep. That's a good thing. Listen to your body, allow it. Just allow. Don't try to control it. It's like we even try to control meditation, right? Like, relax. I meditate when I'm mowing the lawn. I meditate when I'm folding the laundry. It's just, you know what I mean? You just have to allow things to come to you instead of trying to force it. Like, this whole spiritual journey isn't about figuring out how to do it. Like, it's more about letting go of how we've always done things and just feeling into what feels good and right for you. And for me, like, nature played such a large role in that. But anyways, once you get into this space, thoughts will flow in. They're not forced. They're not forced through worry, depression, or the Matrix, or your ego. They're just flowing in because you're just being. You're not taking anything too serious. You know, in the beginning, I used to focus on like the sound of the refrigerator or the air conditioner or the dryer running or something like that, so I could just get my mind from thinking, because I'm such an overthinker. So there's different tricks and stuff you can use, but really it's just being in that space and not caring if you fall asleep, not caring what happens, whatever comes. So this is when I receive downloads of information, feelings of love, new creative ideas, visions of beautiful timelines. I really visualize a lot. It's almost like a daydream, and I'll just be in that space, and I literally I'm in different worlds, seriously. But anyway, I really just allow myself to be open to the expansion of love by allowing myself to go to places that my ego doesn't think can exist. So when I go off, you know, on these timelines in my visions, a lot of times it's things that I'm like, I don't know if that could really happen in reality. Like, think about it. Like this, you know what I mean? It's like, let yourself go. Like, say it doesn't matter if my ego thinks this could happen. Like, I'm seeing it right now and I'm feeling it. And in those visions, bring about your senses. If you can even bring your sense of smell, like is there flowers in the room that you're visualizing? Are you walking through a garden? What do you smell? Like, what do you feel? Are you bringing other characters into this vision with you? Like, all of it, right? Like, I have my kids in my visions a lot, you know, and just, yeah, use your imagination, because there's so much. That's where all that creates, like, that's where all the ideas are created, right? Okay. In my imagination, I create worlds, and when I can hold those vibrational frequencies, in the vision, the outer world begins to reflect those frequencies too. So the consistency in which a person can maintain the expansive frequencies, the more a higher frequency can be anchored in, and the expansion process continues. So the more that you can, like, say, get into that space, receive the vision, and feel how it feels to be full of love or creative ideas, or like that really expansive state, that exciting space, and then hold that frequency. How consistently can we get into that frequency till the point where we anchor it in? And once you anchor it in, then there's usually another purge. It's like this cycle we go through on our spiritual journey. Like, there's not just one dark night of the soul, right? You have your dark night, you become conscious of this thing about yourself that you weren't conscious before, maybe programming or the way you interact with others or whatever. You become conscious of it. Oh, you purge it, you cry, you get it all out, whatever you got. However you do that as an individual, it's not one way for everybody. And once you do that, you feel yourself level up. So you feel more expanded. You're like, oh shit, like, my vibration is anchored in a higher space. And then after that occurs, it's like starting all over again. Now there's something else to become aware about yourself. There's something else to become more conscious about the matrix or the programming that you've been immersed into in your environment your entire life. And now it's to the next thing to look at and heal and work through. But how can I look at it and work through it, but still consistently stay in this expansive space? And when I do go to the purge part of the cycle, how can I not be so hard on myself about it? How can I recognize it from a space of the observer? Those feelings are going to come up anyways. You're going to feel it in your body, and you're going to have to say, I'm not going to try to identify myself with this feeling and say, this is me. This is an aspect of my shadow side, my ego, that's coming up to be addressed. And I have the choice whether I want to perceive it in a certain way and react to it in a certain way. And so for me, the way I perceive it, usually that plays a huge impact on how I'm going to react to it. So, like, if my kids have the whole house trash and I'm getting really frustrated, like, how can I perceive this? How can I, react in a different way? How can I do this in a different way? How can I not be frustrated? How can I not let this take me out of the frequency that I'm trying to consistently hold in this expansive space of love, so I can stay connected to the Creator? And every time I come address something in my environment, it's from that space. It's not from that egoic space. Sometimes you just got to walk away and let yourself calm down and re-center yourself. And that's okay, right? It's learning this process, learning yourself. And as you learn yourself and you become more expansive, you become more connected to everything around you in a more loving way, and you impact everyone and everything, and they appreciate you so much for it. And you appreciate yourself more, and then you continue to expand. And it's beautiful if you can get the swing of it and not just avoid it. Not just try to push it away and pretend those feelings don't exist. Acknowledge them and say, I'm going to keep coming from it from this different perspective, from this different space, until that is anchored in. And that is how you alchemize it. It is not just, boom, it's alchemized. I prayed, I let go. No, you actually have to do the work and integrate it. When the thing comes up, you have to say, I choose to look at it this way now. I choose to react to it this way now, and actually fucking do that. And do it the next time, and do it the next time, and do it the next time, until when it comes up, it's like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm easy about life, I I'm not sitting here saying I'm that perfect person that can do that every time, because it's always one more thing to work at. One more thing. It's okay if you slip and you react in a way that, you know, isn't from a space of love sometimes, because you can just take that and use it to expand even more. The quicker you can pull yourself out of the pits, the better, because if it's not fun to have a whole day stuck in a pit. Is it going to be a whole day, or can we make it like 5 minutes or 60 seconds, or as soon as that feeling comes up, like go get that peace you need, or whatever it is, right? Like, how long are we going to stretch this shit out, this victim mode, this thing has happened to me, and whatever it is, like the spirals we go on, you know? It's that mastery. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, what else do I have? You can't handle your ego when you aren't consciously aware of how your ego manifests for you. So that is, that's so crucial. So that's what I see a lot of times, like just interacting in my environment with people that I normally don't interact with. I'm like very, very intelligent people, but it's more the things they have to work on are more like how they don't see how they interact with others. You know what I'm saying? It's very interesting because, like, if you can't see it, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, right? So in order to actually address these things that are coming up, you have to say, okay, the first thing for me was, it wasn't that I necessarily saw the core issue at first. I would just see my reaction and I'd be like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want to yell at my kids. I don't want to get impatient. I don't want to, you know, feel insecure, whatever it is. And so, like, most people can't recognize that that is an issue to begin with. So when most people are like, well, my kids deserve it, they need to get yelled at sometimes, or they're not thinking like it's a big deal to be impatient with their kids because their parents were impatient with them. So it's normalized, right? And a lot of things are normalized, so it's hard to see it from your shoes. So when you're like, it is kind of helpful to have somebody there to point out things who is like, it's like good to have that friend who will always tell you the brutal truth, right? I've always been that friend for my friends, and sometimes it makes it so you don't have a lot of friends because not everybody wants to see that, and I needed somebody to do that for me, you know, like I really need someone to be like, hey, Kelsey, you could have went a little more gentle with that delivery, or like whatever it is, right? But when you're like, for me, the example is like when you're the one who has like more of a, like for me, like if I'm in a space and I'm not fully aligned, sometimes when I speak to somebody, the delivery can get aggressive. Not in an intentional way, and people who know me know it's not that way, but say it's somebody who doesn't know me very well, so they could take that a certain way, right? And like for a long time, especially when my 20s and stuff, like I didn't really recognize that. I was just like, this is my personality. Like, I'm a feisty girl, like, you know what I'm saying? But now I'm realizing it's just like I needed to bring in feminine energy. Like my kids helped me, being a mother helped me so much with that. Yeah, it's just a lot in our culture, in the matrix and the programming around the feminist movement, and the way they have completely, you know, broken women out of their organic way of being, and men. It's really confused people. It's really, like for me, like I feel like I'm, as a mother with 4 children, taking divorce and all that kind of stuff, like I'm taking on that masculine role, right? And I've always been like the overachiever, the athlete, the getting degrees, doing all that stuff, and it was like I had no idea how imbalanced I was until I like started this journey. And so it's like I had no idea, and that goes back to being so unconscious of the way you operate until you're conscious of it. And so like spirituality has done that for so many people. It's made them more aware because there's other people out there talking about how like, oh shit, I had this thing that I kept doing that I thought was okay because my parents did it or whatever it is. and that was the way I was raised. And turns out it's a pretty fucked up thing this whole time, and I don't want to fuck my kids up or myself. I want to be a better person for everyone and everything around me, so I got to check myself. But you know, most of society, like even like the psychological way of handling things in the Matrix now, where everyone's going to therapy, I think it's helpful, but it's also like, because it's helping people recognize their stuff, but then they're telling this story and it becomes their identity and they fall into victim mode, right? So like, whoa, that gets into suppressing and like being very offended by everything, and you know, like really connecting to this identity of this avatar that you're playing, and not seeing how you're staying stuck at a lower vibration. So this recognition, this consciousness of how we interact with our environment, how we perceive the world, how we react to things is so crucial, because being able to recognize it and then consciously wanting to change your perspective or the way you react, that is where the growth is. And you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it till you anchor in a higher vibration, till you anchor in a different perspective, till you anchor in a different response. And your auto response becomes different. You rewire your brain to think about this in a different way and tell a different story. Stop telling the same old story. You don't have to fucking tell a story. All you have to do is say, I'm going to come from a space of love. If I'm not feeling like I can, I'm not gonna. Right? So yeah, that's what I had to share with everyone today. What else? Did I put anything else? What is your attitude towards your days? Be easy about life. Yeah. So that was the last thing I was going to share. It's about like when you overthink, when you're trying to plan your whole day instead of like be present with what you're doing right now. For me, like that happened to me this morning, because I'm like planning to go to the beach and do all these things, and I'm thinking about what I got to pack and take care of food and whatever. When you have 4 kids, there's a lot of things to remember. And instead of just like saying, wait, I said I was going to get up and cook breakfast, right? I said I was going to get up and, you know, just relax in the bed here for a minute and just like be. And that's what I ended up doing. And that's how I got all these downloads and things that I wanted to share in this inspiration and love to make this video. But, I had to like check myself for a second first. Like, stop. Why are you thinking about what you got to pack? You ain't even to that part yet. Be in the moment. And when you got to pack, be in that moment and enjoy it. You know, like get excited about getting everything out from last summer, you know, to go to the beach that, you know, just like get excited about it. Like make life fun. Be easy about life. Don't make a big old deal because your kids made a mess in the house. Do we have to figure out how to get a little bit more structure so the kids are becoming more sovereign and independent? Yes, that's something I have to work on as a parent right now. My challenges are in parenting. That's one of the reasons why I have decided to go back home, because it takes a community, you know, to raise a child, you know, and I have 4 and I'm doing it by myself, you know. So it's not always so easy. I don't live near home, like 2.5 hours from home. So like I'm like trying to figure out how can I do this? And my mom runs a nonprofit. So it's like, wow, Spirit's really taking me on this other timeline that I can totally see like how I'm going to be in service, and how I'm going to really grow personally. Like I didn't realize, because I've always lived with somebody. I mean, I've had like a year here, a year there where I don't live with somebody, but I live with Lance for like 3 years, a little over 3 years, and now I'm like living alone again, and I still see Lance. He lives like a little ways away from me, but it's nice. Like I'm realizing that I needed this. Like I needed to live alone. I needed to be in my space, because just like I was talking about in the beginning, where I'm receiving all that information, like it comes from that quiet space. And sometimes we don't realize how distracted we are. Like to me, like being able to spend that time with myself and like really, like for me, when I go back home, I'm have all that time with myself, but I'm also going to be able to help my mom with her nonprofit, which is all kids who need help, all kids who, she runs an after school program. So it's like kids who don't want to be at home. They just come there to have fun and get fed. Like, my mom feeds homeless people. Like, why have I not, like, been drawn to help her anyways? Go help her on this mission. She already has the whole building. She already has all of it, right? She already has everything set up. Why not go feed that community? You know, plus have help with my children. You know, it was too much for Lance. And it's like all these things I had to realize. And, like, he needed his space to work on his stuff. And we had to really, you know, it's just that whole journey with your divine counterpart that you have to recognize. You really have to recognize what you need, and not try to fit your relationship into what the matrix says relationships should look like. And that's kind of what we did, you know. To me, it was just like, wow, I didn't realize how much living apart would be beneficial. And it's just a lot of shit that it took like 3 months of just not speaking to each other to realize and recognize. And instead of, like, for me, like, this is how distracting it can be. So when you live with somebody, this is how it was for me. It was like the kids, they go to school or they're home with you all day. Your husband or your boyfriend comes home from work. You eat dinner. Everybody eats dinner, does their activities. We sit, we watch TV, we go to bed, rinse, wash, repeat. We do some things on the weekend and in the summer. To me, that is too fucking matrixy for me. And that's how it was becoming even with, like, Lance, because he works like a job where he comes home. I'm just so fucking over that. Like, I don't want to be in that. Somebody wakes up in the morning, blah, 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 they do this, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, it's still too... And when I break out of that, I see how I expand in different ways. I see how I'm more on, like, receiving more information about how I want to move forward in my service to others and in my mission as an individual. And I feel like I can just touch so many more people this way. I can spend my evenings, instead of watching stupid TV shows, like, snuggled up with my boyfriend, I can just be... every Wednesday night, I go to the youth center and teach kids about gardening, teach kids how to cook, teach kids how to fucking be sovereign and have skills in life. Like, that's what my plan is now. There was another thing I was gonna do with the kids, where if they help out at the center, because my mom's place, her center, her youth center is huge, and it requires a lot of cleaning, and she cooks for the kids like all the time. Like, it requires help. So what we were gonna do is, like, all the kids help. When they help, they get, you know, certain amount of hours, and those hours add up for them to be able to go on a trip, to go places. And the reason I want to take kids places, like on little field trips and stuff, like out into nature, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, like just to certain places, so they can learn how to, like, go do things and feel like they can go do them. Because one thing I learned about being poor in the beginning of my childhood is, like, there's this weird thing in your head. You don't even feel like those possibilities are there for you. Like, you don't even think you could do that. You don't even know how to do that because your parent never took you somewhere, right? And I even watched other kids around me, because eventually my parents got their lives together and they went places once in a while and did things. Not very far. We still but we still did some things, right? But once I got off on my own, I really, like, I've lived all over the US. I've traveled all over. I've done road trips all over just the United States, but there's so much to see. It's a huge area, right? And, like, for these kids, like, if not only are they earning it, because you kind of got to keep money out of it when you're doing a nonprofit, like a little bit. Like, you want to teach these kids lessons, but not be like, here's some cash to go do whatever you want with, because you have to understand, like, they need guided into how to be sovereign and have skills and stuff, not just, you know, get a little money and do whatever with it. Like, no. And, like, so they're earning these trips and they get to choose. They want to go on the fishing trip, the camping trip, whatever. And you see how I have all these ideas. I'm just sharing a couple examples of how, like, spirit is shifting me onto a different timeline in my life. And this isn't even, I'm not even there yet. So what if it shifts again before then, and I'm open to that? So all these ideas are coming through. So I write them down, I let go, and if it happens, it happens. But the point of the matter is, I was so distracted by living with my partner, because maybe it's not time for that, right? I have the whole rest of my life to live with somebody, you know? And for me, another thing it was for me was, I'm on mission and I want to focus on my mission. And until I share a mission with somebody, I'm not going to share a mission with anybody or live with anybody unless they're on their mission, right? And that was something that should be handled way beforehand. But that's that learning experience that I'm going through right now. And I love, because, you know, me and Lance butted heads and we were in our egos for a few months. Like, screw you, I'm moving on type of vibe. But when you can come around and actually see the situation from a different perspective that's not so in the matrix, like you got to live together, you got to do this, you got to do that, it has to look a certain way. When you get out of that space and you kind of let the universe work, you just detach. Whatever happens, happens. If it happens this way, cool. If it doesn't happen that way, cool. If it happens this way, that way, just be open. The more open you are, the more spirit in the universe can run and co-create with you. Because if you're so attached to an outcome or the way something needs to look or be, then the universe has a hard time working with you, because you ain't gonna go anywhere. You ain't gonna work with it. It takes two to make it happen, to co-create. And if the universe is like, okay, I'm trying to work this, but you ain't taking a hint, like, you're just gonna stay in the same old victim ass spot with the same old problems, repeating the same old cycles. So like, how can we expand our way of perceiving this world to say, hey, it could work out in so many different ways? What if me and Lance aren't even together and who knows? Like, I'm not afraid to say that out loud right now, because I'm not attached to the situation. I'm not attached to fucking anything. I will learn that lesson in January, February, March. And it was a tough one to learn. A lot of tears. You notice I've not made too many videos because I'm working through all that stuff. I'm trying to understand how to navigate, you know, this new level of my journey. And yeah, you just become more sovereign, you become more independent. But at the same time, as you do that, when you do that, you become more service to others, you become connected to the one. So isn't it funny how more sovereign we become, the more connected we become simultaneously? Because when you are sovereign, you come from the space of source. And when you're coming from the space of love, people can't help, your environment can't help but be connected and co-create with you. Because that's the vibrational frequency that you've anchored yourself in, that you are resonating in, that you consistently show up in. So yeah, guys, I love you and enjoy this weather. I don't know if everyone has great weather, but here in Pennsylvania, we have amazing weather this weekend. So enjoy it. I love you guys. And yeah, just keep your chin up. Everything's going to be great. You just have to see it that way and not beat up on yourself when you're in those spaces, because literally I'm in and out of them all the time, and it's okay. Nobody's good. You're not perfect. And the more you can be like, I'm not perfect and that's okay because I'm fucking working on me, the better you're going to feel. And everything's going to work out for you because you believe that. All right, guys, I love you.